If you've ever picked up a packet of ready-made chapati flour, a bar of soap, or even a notebook, then you already know ITC. It's the country's second largest FMCG conglomerate, valued at nearly $60 billion, and it houses some of India's most iconic brands. Think Ashirwad or Fiyama or even the chai tapri staple Goldflake. This 115-year-old corporation is among India's most successful, and it has a foot in nearly every major sector you can think of. But here's where things get interesting. There's a plucky new challenger trying to take on ITC. What might surprise you is that it isn't coming for the conglomerate's tobacco crown or even a slice of its sizable FMCG pie. The race is taking place, quite literally, on a different page altogether, with pens, pencils, and paper. Now, if you've been through the rigors of the Indian education system, then you must also be familiar with ITC's two in-house stationery brands, Classmate and Papercraft. Despite being classroom staples, they have been among its less glamorous offerings for decades now. And yet, today they are being pulled back into relevance as this new challenger enters the stage. And this new contender in question is none other than Gujarat-based Doms Industries. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Rachel Verghese, and every day of the week, my co-host Snigdha Sharma and I will bring you one news story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Wednesday, the 29th of October. Now, if you didn't know, ITC set up its paper manufacturing business in 1979 and quickly became one of India's biggest producers. They own two of the biggest paper mills in India. My colleague, the Ken reporter Nuha, spoke to a manager from ITC. They said that the sheer volume of paper produced by these two mills is enough to make it difficult for any other producer in India to compete with ITC. But that hasn't stopped Doms from trying. Doms went public in 2023 when its annual sales were around 1,200 crore rupees, which was barely half of what ITC's Classmate and Papercraft brands were making. Fast forward to FY25, and Doms has hit 1,900 crore rupees in sales, which matches two-thirds of ITC's sales share. Since the IPO, the company's stock has tripled. Its market value currently stands at 15,500 crore rupees. Who knew pencils could be this lucrative? Well, it seems like Doms did. All the way back in 2006, it stopped making pencils for others and started making its own. Right now, pencils remain its top seller, which account for 30% of its revenue. But now, Doms wants to challenge ITC on its home turf, paper. It started off by purchasing a 15% stake in Supertreads, a paper manufacturer. And then, Doms raised its share in Pioneer Stationery to nearly 60%. Basically, they're steadily coming after Classmate's notebook market share. Now, notebook sales account for 90% of Classmate's revenue. So you can see why Dom's move might make ITC a little anxious. And it's not just paper. Doms is also spreading its presence beyond stationery. They're branching out into toys, school bags, and even baby diapers. The goal? To build what one manager calls an ecosystem like ITC, with the aim to cater to a child's needs. The company wants to serve children throughout their growing years, from kindergarten to their teens. A lot of this vision and ambition comes from the Raveshya and Rajani families, who have been growing the company since 1976. As third-generation heir Om Raveshya puts it, when you're growing, the goal is to understand the consumer and keep upgrading. And both Doms and ITC have a simple yet effective way of keeping this growth going. More on this in the next segment.
Hi, I'm Rahil, the host and producer of 90,000 Hours, the Ken's podcast on the future of careers and workplaces. I'm pausing this episode to ask you a very quick question. How much time has AI actually saved you at work? Now, I admit it's not something most of us think about. I hadn't either. But now that tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity have all become almost indispensable, it's worth asking, are they really living up to their promise? Are they making our workdays shorter by taking tasks off our hands? And if they are, what are you doing with that time? I'd love to know. We are running a short survey for an upcoming episode of 90,000 Hours. You'll find the link in the show notes. It will just take you 5 minutes. And with that out of the way, let's get back to the episode.
What sets Doms apart from its rivals is that it makes nearly everything in-house. 99% of its products, in fact. From its bestseller pencils to geometry boxes, everything is designed, molded, and manufactured under one roof. Om Raveshya, the third generation heir to Doms, told Nuha that Doms is in fact one of the few companies that makes the boxes itself. Most competitors outsource its manufacturing. The thing is, it's the same playbook ITC has mastered over the decades. Remember the huge paper mills ITC owns and uses to maintain its dominance in paper sourcing? Well, DOMS is building out its own paper sourcing supply chain. It acquired Superthreads precisely to gain more control over costs. Here's why. Satish Meena, founder of market research firm Datum Intelligence, explained that when paper costs increase, the margins for notebooks decrease. An ITC manager told Nuha that margins are generally 10 to 20% when it comes to notebooks. So, when margins are already this precarious, without this kind of integration, it would be impossible to compete with someone like an ITC. By keeping production in-house, DOMS has expanded its operating margins from 15% to 18% in 2 years, which, when it comes to the sales of inexpensive products sold in high quantities, like stationery, can add up and translate into a massive profit. What's also helping DOMS stay ahead is its dedication to launching new products. Raveshya said that the company takes every chance it can get to expand its product portfolio. You know, those Batman and Spider-Man shaped pens or those colorful scented erasers? Those are the kind of products that DOMS sells along with its most basic pencils. These specialty products give them higher margins. The company also launches at least 10 new products a month to attract consumers' attention. The result is 4,300 SKUs in comparison to Classmate and Papercraft's 2,000. To sell all these products, DOMS has partnered with a sprawling distribution network of over 100 super stockists, 3,500 distributors, and 125,000 retail outlets across the country. And this drive to constantly innovate and expand is credited to the man in charge, Santosh Raveshya. Stay tuned. Santosh Raveshya runs everything at DOMS, from finance to scalability to overall management. He learned the ropes while working at Hindustan Unilever's brand Kisan Ketchup and came and applied all his sales and distribution learnings at DOMS. His experience and his exacting nature started paying off from the very beginning. The company started with pencils. Almost immediately, DOMS differentiated itself from the rest of the market by selling polymer pencils instead of the usual graphite and clay pencils. This made them stand out because the pencils were stronger and had darker writing. Once they'd established themselves in a few core categories, Raveshya said they wasted no time moving into others. Now, that doesn't mean they were just launching products left and right though. A former DOMS manager said that if a product wasn't perfect when they tested it, Raveshya wouldn't accept it. For instance, take the geometry boxes we mentioned earlier. If you remember the time of math exams and geometry tests, you'll likely remember how easy it was to dent and warp these boxes. To rectify this, DOM started using a different kind of metal sheet for its own boxes, which could take hits without bending, all while dressed up in a gloss matte combination. And this perfectionism didn't just stay contained in R&D. Everyone from office employees to the Raveshya Rajani families would use new products and offer feedback. In fact, the younger generation, including Om, grew up using DOMS products. So once the company had identified a problem and innovated around it to put out a new product, the rest was just word of mouth. Of course, kids can't wait to buy the coolest new product on the block. The dent-proof geometry box, for example, was launched in 2023. DOMS called it the Geodron box and priced it at 100 rupees. Then they packed it with extra products like a pen and a lead pencil. An ITC manager even admitted to Nuha that no one else in the market was doing it like DOMS at that time. He even said that the packaging was outstanding. ITC wasn't all that quick to catch up either. They launched a similar box called Octane only in April this year. In the meantime, DOMS is targeting visibility online through e-commerce and quick commerce channels. Rahul Shah, Doms' chief financial officer said during a recent earnings call that they're aiming to be a convenient purchase for their consumers. Now, over 40% of its sales come from online platforms. It's even dominating modern trade stores as well, though it still trades behind ITC in smaller tier 3 towns. But its distribution abroad is still quite strong. In 2012, Doms teamed up with Italian stationery giant Fila to go global. The partnership gave Doms access to manufacturing know how and product innovation. In return, Fila helped distribute Doms products in markets like the US, where Fila already had a strong presence. Ravesia said that even though Doms doesn't have factories abroad, Fila distributes its products in the US while other partners handle markets elsewhere. Today, Doms sells in over 50 countries, and international sales make up nearly 15% of its total revenue. And it's nowhere close to slowing down. Ravesia aims to be the biggest in the business. So, Doms is focusing on growing its numbers, range, and portfolio. He still remembers his father's advice fondly. If something is important, don't be afraid to bet on it. So, with a new 44-acre greenfield manufacturing facility on the way, Doms is clearly betting big on its future. But then again, so is ITC. May the best stationery maker win.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings. A full subscription offers daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and a whole bunch of premium podcasts. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the Ken website. Today's episode was hosted and produced by my colleague Rachel Varghese and edited by Rajiv Sien.